For this month's homeowners update, I'm going to be talking about things you can do to improve your home's value, as well as things, please don't do it. It just hurts your home value. If you're new to the channel, I've been a lender for almost 19 years now. What I love doing with clients is I love going online with them and looking at what they're looking at. It helps me understand where they're at in the process, if they're looking at stuff I can actually finance, but it also tells me what's going on with the market. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you some of the stuff that I see buyers get repelled by, as well as some of the stuff where I see them swoon. And here's the thing, you're like, Jen, I'm a homeowner. Why am I thinking about buyers? Look, unless it's a forever home, if you're ever thinking about putting significant money into your house, you need to be thinking about who the end buyer is. So I would argue the first thing that you should do before you spend a nickel on remodeling is figure out, is this a forever home? Or is this a house that's a starter home, not your favorite? Maybe it's a 5-year house, maybe it's a 2-year house. That's the first thing you need to do. Now I'm gonna tell you right now, if it's your forever home, you go be you. You be wild, you do it. I don't care. If you want a purple rain bathroom, get that purple toilet, get that purple tub. But if you're thinking you're gonna sell within 10 years, do not do that. You are just lighting that money on fire. The most important thing for you guys to know is that people don't appreciate your individuality. I said it, I know, that sounds horrible, it's true. Look, I've seen some kitchens that are beautiful, that are like blue or green. I will never buy a house with a blue or green kitchen, even if it's beautiful, without recognizing I'm gonna be renovating it within 3 years, because I know that it's gonna drive me nuts after 3 years. Now, in certain cases, there may be a buyer that just has always wanted a blue kitchen, but there's more buyers that don't. And if you're in this category of selling within the next 10 years, you need to think about, if you're gonna be spending money on your property, how do you attract the most people to it? Now, the one thing you should do, whether you are in the forever category with that purple rain bathroom or the I may sell it soon, I guess I can't have too much fun category, is your deferred maintenance. I cannot stress it enough. Do not spend a nickel improving that property until you have all your deferred maintenance taken care of. I just bought a house recently. I'm so excited. It's going to be my owner-occupied house in Florida. Woo woo! The first thing I'm doing is I'm fixing all the deferred maintenance. So, you know, it's the nickel dime stuff that right now isn't expensive, but I know that if I put it off, it will cost more. So for instance, you know, some of the doors have dry rot, so we're getting all of that fixed. The kitchen oven has a hole. That's deferred maintenance. We're going to replace that. I've got an outdoor staircase that definitely needs to be replaced. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm taking care of deferred maintenance. And what I would suggest as a homeowner is go around your house, you know, test your faucets, maybe watch some videos on what home inspectors do. Do that yourself first. And if you're like, I don't want to hire a home inspector, and you're like, wait, I can do that as a homeowner? Yeah, guys, hire a home inspector. Seriously, have them go through your house and find all the deferred maintenance, because before you spend money on upgrading that house, take care of everything else. You don't want to get into a position where you upgrade your house and then you find out that you have a plumbing issue. Seriously, that would be one of the worst for sure. Because have I seen houses where all the pipes are going? Yeah, and if you just spent $200,000 updating, but now they have to tear up the floor to fix the pipes, don't do it. So yeah, I do think it's a good idea to get a home inspection before you start any remodeling or renovation. I also think it's very good for budgeting to make sure you're taking care of the property. Catching something quickly, fun story real quick. And look, if you guys are new to the channel, I've been in real estate for close to 20 years. I've been investing in real estate for a long time. So I do have more than one property. So I don't want it to come off as like crazy, but like, of course, this is what I do for a living. So in New York, we bought a property years ago. And the day we moved in, it was leaking in the bedroom. And we were like, oh my God, like everyone had lied about it. It was a nightmare. So we tell the co-op, hey, like it's leaking in here. Like this is a problem. Time passes, we're the squeaky wheel. Hey, now we have leaking over here. Now we have leaking over here. Oh my God, is that mold? Like nightmare. what would have cost them $100,000, $200,000 to replace the roof, by the time they actually did it, it cost over $1 million because it had just gotten worse and worse and worse. And you had inflation and increase in labor prices. So fix the deferred maintenance first, please. Okay. One thing I think you absolutely should never buy, solar. I know, I'm not trying to be an enemy of the environment, but I've done the math on it multiple times. It only pencils out over the real long term. And unless it's your forever home, remember, you can have the purple rain bathroom. If you want to spend your money on solar and have it not break even for 20 to 30 years, you be you. But if you're thinking of selling the house, don't get solar. You will not get the return you're thinking. And I've seen it time and time again. I've had clients who want to do cash out refis, and I'm like, okay, have you done anything to improve the property? Oh, well, I put a Tesla $100,000 roof on the house. And I'm like, oh, so the cash out refi, yeah, I need to pay off that roof, the solar roof. The house was only worth $10,000 more. You do not get dollar for solar. The reason is not everybody likes solar. No, they don't. Some people hate the look of it. You will lose buyers just because they'll see the roof. They'll be like, bye. And look, I would argue the Tesla is one of the nicer roofs, but there are people where if they see the panels, they walk away. If you're like, well, I'm not going to spend all that money, I'm going to lease it. Oh, no, friends. Not unless they can take that off and the potential buyer doesn't have to take over your lease. There's a lot of buyers that will not buy a house with solar because they don't want an additional payment or an additional lease. The other one is you'll have people at your door saying, oh, don't even worry about paying. We just add it to your taxes with a credit from the city, blah, blah, blah. Sounds almost free, but it's not. You know, there's some of these programs where they add it on your tax bill, so you're paying an extra amount to your taxes every year, and you're either hoping that the buyer wants to do that or you have to pay it off before close. And I'm telling you, you're not going to get increased value for that. So forever home, get the solar if you want it. Don't get it over here. You're not going to get dollar for dollar. The other one I would be cautious of is a pool. And I know if you're in a hot state, you're like, that's crazy. There's caveats. So first of all, if you're in your forever home, do it. Do whatever you want. But if it's not with the pool, if you're in a colder state where you have 2 months of sunshine, don't do it. It's a waste of money. There's maintenance that goes along with a pool. And a lot of times people go, oh, but I do all the work. It's so easy. They can just do, people don't want to. They don't want to. And if they only get sunshine 2 months of the year, they may not want to learn how. Okay. Also, if they're hiring someone and you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of pools, it's more expensive to upkeep. So I would not recommend that. Now, if you're in a really hot state, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, right? A pool can help with your property values. The concept of buying a house in Arizona or Nevada without a pool to me is terrifying. However, if the pool takes up the whole yard, then you are actually unlikely to get the money back and you likely will lose money. The reason is people don't want the pool to take up the entire yard. Ask a real estate agent. They will say the exact same thing. You're cutting out a huge amount of buyers if you have a pool that takes up the whole yard. You're cutting out the buyers with small children that don't want to have to worry about opening a sliding door 3 steps and you're in the pool. You're cutting out the people with pets that want to be able to open the door and have their dog go outside. You're cutting out a percentage of buyers. And if you're thinking of selling the house within 10 years, what you want is the house that every buyer wants. You don't want the house where there's objections to stuff that you've done in an effort to improve the property. So I bring up the pool because we're seeing smaller and smaller lots every day. So be mindful of that. Being in a hot state, you're like, I have to have a pool. But if it's going to take up the whole yard, it can work against you. Okay, what's another way that people can spend a ton of money and never get it back? Look at the style of your house. So I'm going to use an example. My dad sold his house years ago. It was a French I can't talk anymore, guys. It was a French chateau style house. And the buyers came in, they spent over $800,000 upgrading it. look, it was dated, but the flooring was marble, the counters were marble, the cabinets were done in a French country style, and they were in good condition. The inside of the house matched the outside when he sold it. So these people come in, they spend all this money. That's a lot of money. They turn the inside into an American barn. So the outside was French chateau, and then you go inside and all of a sudden all the bedrooms have barn doors, and the kitchen is farmhouse style, and there's wood, it didn't match. It was like you're on the outside thinking that you're about to walk into an estate, and then you go in and you're like, hey, where's that rodeo bull and a beer? It wasn't beautiful farmhouse style either. It was incredibly rustic, which if the exterior matched that, if the house was a ranch in Montana, cool. If the house was even farmhouse style, you'll see that in the wine country where the exterior is farmhouse. If you go inside and it's farmhouse, great. But French chateau to farmhouse doesn't make sense. So they lost probably $500,000 when they sold because of the upgrades that they did. So be mindful of the interior and the exterior matching. Now, one thing that can help your house sell for more, which is pretty easy, is newer appliances. So be careful with that because, you'll see real estate agents say, oh, if you have a Wolf stove or a Sub-Zero fridge or this or that, and they're very expensive brands. In the luxury market, yes, you need to have those. If you're trying to get top dollar for your house, you should have a very nice stove. But a $300,000 or $400,000 house, is a Wolf stove going to get you a lot more money? No. So you want to make sure that any improvement you're doing is appropriate for your price point of the house. So it doesn't hurt to talk to a real estate agent either and just say, hey, I'm not looking at selling now, but I am looking at doing some remodeling, and I want to make sure that I'm not remodeling, I'm not doing too much for the neighborhood or making it so people won't buy this house. And a lot of them will be like, yeah, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. I've always been really shocked by where you get your money back and where you just lose it. Wallpaper, for example, beautiful wallpaper on the luxury end can really be great. If you're, under $1 million, wallpaper can work against you. It's bizarre, right? But it's also personal taste. And in fairness, the wallpaper on the luxury, if it's crazy wallpaper, you're going to lose people over that. So talk to a real estate agent just to make sure you're not doing something that's not price point appropriate for your property. The other thing to keep in mind is curb appeal. Curb appeal is something cheap you can do that can have a huge impact both for your enjoyment of the house as well as the future. Now, one thing I would avoid is if you have a backyard, a big backyard, do not turn it into a concrete pad. Don't do that. Look, people like some level of concrete so they can barbecue, so they can have a table out there. But if the whole thing is concrete, that can be a huge turnoff for buyers because they're like, if I've got my kids on a trampoline, they're going to fall on concrete. I don't have anywhere for my dog to go because it's all concrete. So if you're thinking, oh, well, I want a huge concrete slab, people will like this. No. Do an area, but make sure you have some level of plantings. And what I can tell you is that plants can make the biggest impact on the exterior of your property. Seriously, you can hide so many things with plants. And I know that sounds wrong, but you can also do stuff to cuten up a property really quickly with plants. We had a house that we did a flip on, 5 years ago. We sold it in 22, so not that long ago. And the house had no curb appeal, zero. Basically, to get to the front door, you had to walk up the driveway. There was a narrow pathway to the front door. There was no entrance really. And people, when they're coming to your house, walking up the driveway to get to the front door, it doesn't feel special. Okay. So what we did with this property is from the sidewalk to the front door, we put in a brick path. I know. So simple. And look, the brick path was here and the driveway was here, but the brick path went straight from the street, straight to the front door. it made a huge difference, because what we also did, so originally there's a front door, there's grass, there's a tree, you got the driveway with the little path. So we have this brick path now. I hope you guys can see my hands and this makes sense. So we have a brick path to the street, and then we planted boxwood right around here. Instead of paying a bunch of money for a fence or a picket fence, we planted boxwood, and it's beautiful now. I drive by that house all the time. I love that house. It's so cute now. And the boxwood has grown up, and it's like a little hedge, and it's got its entry with the brick. That was probably under $3,000. And look, plants aren't cheap. Like, they're probably $25, $30 a plant in many cases, but they can have big impact. Also, there's been so many studies that people are happier when they're surrounded by nature. So one of the things that I look for if I'm doing a property is, what do you see out the window? That's a game I play. What do you see out the window? And I try to make whatever you see out that window beautiful. You know, maybe it's, I've got one window where you look out and there's a snowball hydrangea. It's so soothing. Guys, it's a plant in a container, but when it's blooming, it's like magic. So that can be an expensive way to really change the feeling of your house, but also help with resale. So play the game in your house. What do I see out the window? And then start thinking about nature. And if you're like, Jen, I'm not a gardener, you don't really have to be. Seriously, like, depending on where you are, look at what plants do well in that area. In many cases, all you're doing is digging a hole, putting it in, and making sure it has water. Yes, there's lots of books you can read that are like, the pH of the soil needs to be... I've never done that, guys. If you go to my Instagram, you can check out my garden. It is a wild oasis of beauty. I don't do any of the nonsense. I don't even think we fertilize. Like, we should, but I'm saying growing stuff, if you're growing what works in your area, is way easier than you think, and it can help your property values so much. Okay, what else do people do that they don't get their money back for? Outdoor kitchens, hit or miss. If you're in a part of the country where it's hot and people do a lot of outdoor entertaining and you have a pool, it can make sense. If the outdoor kitchen is the whole backyard, once again, that's a problem. If you're in the part of the country where you really don't go outside that much, that's also not gonna have very big impact. With flooring, you know, carpet, if you're gonna sell the house immediately is fine, but after a couple of years, people don't view carpet as a benefit. Generally, you're gonna get the most return from engineered wood floor. Wood floor would be amazing, but most people are doing engineered wood flooring. I think at all price points, from what I've seen, people like wood, right? I have yet to have a client go, oh, it has wood. Never. Have I heard, carpet? Of course, right? Have I heard tile? Why? Yes. Have I heard vinyl plank? Why did they? Yes. So if you're going to be improving your floors, I would recommend engineered wood. There's lots of different price points depending on how much your house is. You know, should you be putting in an engineered wood floor that's $30 a square foot if your house is $300,000? No, guys, and you don't need to. Like, Lumber Liquidators has some incredible deals. Like, who knows what the price is now, but I did one floor that I think was about $5 a square foot with installation. It looked amazing and it was good quality. So you can get engineered wood and it's not that expensive. I would be recommending that over every other type of flooring based on what I see. You know, if you're like, oh, I'm going to tile the whole house, the sound with tile can be really, really bad. So look, bottom line is this. If you're going to sell within 10 years, don't renovate the house for everything you want. Think about the next buyer. Don't paint the walls crazy colors. Don't do a blue bathroom because you think it's going to improve your values. Now is not the time to express your individuality, because as someone who talks to buyers all the time, I see people walk away from houses for this stuff. I hear, I like the house, but I don't have the money to renovate the bathroom and it's XYZ color. Not just the paint, the toilet, whatever. Or I really like the house, but the backyard's all concrete. I don't know how I'm gonna drill it up. Or I really like the house, but there's nowhere for my kids to go out. Or, you know, it goes on and on. So I hope this video is helpful. I'm trying not to go on too long. I have so many stories about this though. So look, have you remodeled your house? Did it work for you? Did it not work for you? What do you want to do that you think is crazy, that everyone thinks you shouldn't? Drop it in the comments. And did you get sold solar? Let us know. Thanks for watching.